Pruitt process works in both ways. It always has to be used in total integrity and in total honesty. In this particular situation, what the people wanted me to come in and do is to come in and deal with the core leaders of this business. Once again, the problem was they had a great mission statement. They were doing a great work. They just didn't get along. They were family members. They were all family members. They wanted me to come in and lead them through the Pruitt process and help them so that, not only was the business doing what it needed to do, but they all enjoyed working together. I told them I'd come in, I would take a look at the situation, and I would let them know what I could do for them. And if the answer was nothing, the answer would be nothing. So came in, talked with them, saw what they were dealing with, and realized honestly that the Pruitt process led me to this decision for them. The decision I had for them was simply, you know what, you guys are family, and to bring a stranger into this family situation to try to resolve it is only going to cause more problems. So you guys are going to have to sit down, you're going to have to man up, and you're going to have to deal with this like families do. Money's not going to make this situation go away. One-on-one, obviously, the difference is that you can get a little bit more personal. You can ask a lot of the questions that maybe you wouldn't ask an organization. An organization, to some degree, hopefully they don't have a lot to hide, but yet there are things that they're not going to let you in on. With an individual, you can kind of go through the Rolodex of their life a little bit quicker than you can go through the Rolodex or the diary of an organization. That would be the difference on how you would handle an individual as compared to how you would handle an organization.
Honesty question number 2. How many of you will be honest and say, Brian Pruitt, I must be honest with you and tell you that my mama is crazy? Let me see your hand. 100% participation. That's not right. That's not right. Over there, everybody in one row pointed at one person. It's like, his mama. His mama is crazy. I was at his birthday party and his mama is crazy. Yeah, that's not right. That's not right. Somebody over here raised 2 hands. And all of a sudden, my life had totally changed. One side of me said, man, I just want to run and go hide under a rock somewhere. The other side of me says, no, Brian, it's not so much what happens to you in life. It's more of how you respond to what happens to you in life. That was so good, let me hit the rewind button on that. It's not so much what happens to you in life. It's how you respond to what happens to you in life. John Glenn Bobcats, I love you guys. Have a great day.
Often have opportunity to speak in schools, do a lot of school assemblies, and one story in particular jumps out to me. I remember immediately after one of the school assemblies I did, there was a young man who came up to me. He was crying, and he heard my story. He asked me how did I overcome the things that I had to face in my life, and I asked him what was going on in his life. He began to share his story with me. His father, for the most part, had abandoned his family. And this young man was 18 years old. He spent his whole life wondering where his dad was and if his dad even cared about him. And now he's 18. He's trying to figure out what it is to be a man himself. He has no answers. And he comes to the place at his life where he just decides life's not worth living anymore. And I tried to give this young man help. I asked him a question. I just simply asked him, I says, do you want to be a dad someday? And he says, yes, Mr. Pruitt, I'd love to be a father someday. And I looked at him and I just simply said, someday you're going to grow up and you're going to be a great dad because you know what it means not to have one. And the kid just got the biggest smile on his face and he just continued to cry. I gave him a big hug. I realized all this young man really wanted was somebody to tell him that he didn't have to grow up and be the man that his dad was, that he could grow up and he could be a better man than even what his own father was.
But Jesus, when I was 10 years old, my father was an alcoholic, and so it only made sense that I would be. Jesus says, hey, hold on. I already know your condition and how long you suffer from it. But Jesus, when I lost that first child, Jesus says, I know that hurt me too. I know your condition. But the divorce that I went through, Lord, I know your condition. And finally, the young man says, yes, Jesus, I want to get well. And Jesus says something to him that changes his life. He says, get up, take up your mat, and walk. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here this morning to tell somebody in this room, get up, take up your mat, and walk. It's time to get back headed towards your destiny. I want to pray with you guys this morning.
A few years ago, I had an opportunity to go to a school. A student there had recently committed suicide. He was a well-known student, an athlete at his school. It rocked his entire community when he took his life. He dealt with depression, he dealt with anger, and just didn't know how to walk himself through the process of dealing with the issues in his life. You know, a lot of times when you're 16, 17-year-old, everything in life is a little bit larger than what it really is. You know, if you break up with your girlfriend, you don't realize that you'll live to date another day. Mm-hmm. And so this young man took his life. The school principal gave me a call and asked if I would come in and just talk with the students, do school assemblies for the day. And so I came into that school, I did school assemblies. I talked about the things that I went through and also addressed the issue with this young man. And it was just an incredible day. At the end of the school assembly, students were coming to me, they were crying, and because this was their friend. They had lost a friend. And so I was able to help that school out an awful lot, help the students within that school out an awful lot. And to this day, I still get calls from that principal whenever there's an individual student that's going through something. The principal tends to give me a call and say, Brian, do you mind giving this young man a call and just talking, or this young lady a call, and just talking one-on-one with them for just a minute. And it's neat because I've been able to build a relationship with an entire school system by doing that. Brian Pruitt Motivation is definitely a resource to get those things. And that's why our mission statement is helping people overcome obstacles and accomplish their dreams.
He pulled me aside and he says, Brian, I wanted you to understand something. I wanted you to understand the power of God that was inside of you. I wanted you to understand that God is requiring you to take responsibility for your generation. I wanted you to understand that God's calling you to be the 13th disciple, to live your life as wild and as radical as the other 12. He says, when you graduate from your high school, people ought to know Jesus had been there. He says, if you walk out of there and they didn't know that you were on fire, born again believer, something's wrong.